esteemed Vice Chancellor of the University, Dr. Sanjay Pratap Singh, esteemed Dean of Student Welfare, Dr. Gautam Sharma, and the point of contact and who has provided the base or the architecture of this program, Ms. Sweta Das, the professor here, and young and energetic students, and my dear colleagues, Mr. Kayo, Joint Commissioner, Mr. Alok, Deputy Commissioner, and other officers. We have been working out a strategy as to how to reach the younger generations, because today you are in the planning field. Tomorrow you have to take up the responsibilities of governing this country. And as part of that, training program or a kind of motivation or a kind of inspiration to give to you that you have to become the rulers of this country. And from the lab to the land, the transformation of technology takes place. Similarly, from the university to the government, the enlightened youngsters have to come. Keeping that in mind, we have taken an excuse, एक बहाना हमने बनाया, an excuse so that we can meet all of you and interact, and also inculcate in you the need to become a responsible government officer or industrialist or an educationist or an entrepreneur of your own sense, of your own likings. Keeping that in mind, we have requested the university administration. The esteemed Vice Chancellor is a very jovial, very far-sighted intellectual. He has established the Amity University in Panvel, which I have been, since I am based in Mumbai, and nearby to my home, Nerul to Panvel is only 10 kilometers. I used to go that side, taking my kids for a car drive. And that university is a marvelous architectural beauty. You should see sometime. And I am very happy to know that today your Vice Chancellor indeed is the man behind that. And the majestic Gothic style of this architecture is called Gothic style. Your architecture, which is, now we had a magnificent building before which we all took a photograph. That architecture is his imagination. If that is the vision of a person, then you are really lucky to have a visionary in the form of your own, Vice Chancellor. And Mr. Professor Sharma, I know him. He had been earlier to our office, a man of erudition, scholarship. Therefore, the immediate context of going to plant certain ideas to you in your mind, I thought let us first go for a physical plantation of trees and then plant some ideas in your mind. So I combined both. That is, we will go for a silvicultural exercise and also civic sense, certain deliberations with you. Now, have anyone come across the word silviculture? You can raise your hand. Horticulture, agriculture, sericulture, apiculture, like that, so many, physiculture. Like that, you have heard so much of cultures. So this word civiculture, did anyone come across? You can quickly Google also later. So silviculture means, I wanted to say civiculture also. Civic we can take, and culture. So silvus means, it is a Latin word, it means woods or trees or plants, things like that. And it is a science of how to manage the natural forest in its own conditions, without disturbing its fauna and flora, and make it a better yielding and better, environmental services providing entity. That is one thing. Another is nurturing. Silviculture can be whatever already naturally existing, that we have to maintain as such by scientific intervention. Another is, you go for a kind of intensive planned activity of producing or creating forest. So, afforestation is a part of silviculture. If you take it historically, why we should go for silviculture, that is cultivation of trees promoting the density of green canopy coverage in the country or in the globe. It all revolves around our own existence. If there is no greenery, our existence is not there. Anna bhavati bhutani, pajanyat anna sambhava. So, human beings and animals, all sentient beings are made of food. Annat bhavati bhutani. Annam pajanyat sambhava. Pajanya means rain. Rain produces the food, and we are made of food only. So the food is comprised of two things, the plant based ones and the animal based ones. Is there any other food that we come across? No. So among the plants and animals, we find that plants are autogenous in terms of autotrophic. They are capable of producing their own food on their own. Whereas the jangamas, the animals, are not capable of producing their own food, but they have to depend on plants. That is called heterotrophic food chain. So in the food chain, we stand at the top and we depend on all the animal kingdoms and plants and phylums and whatever species that you may be from architecture, all that things fine, but basic you will be knowing that we all studied in our schools that the food chain is having a huge kind of cycle. That is the nature. So the trees, the plants, the animals and human beings being the highly evolved. Among the animal kingdom, we are the highly developed species. We are called Homo sapiens. Our neighbor, the Neanderthal, all that kind of anthropological species are called Homo erectus. They are bipedal. That is an evolution from the triac group, where you are walking on four legs. That stage, say, it is a highly developed stage to become bipedal. That is Homo erectus. It is not sufficient to be a Homo erectus, you have to become Homo sapiens. That is how we are distinct and different from the brand of chimpanzees. Homo sapiens means Buddhiman. You have a mind. John Dewey, the great educationist philosopher, says that there is a difference between activity and intelligent activity. Take the example of a bird. It makes its nest so beautifully. But take a very bad sketch of an architectural design made by any one of your colleagues whom you will be making fun of. Ye kya banaya tumne? Even that bad drawing or design is preceded by a thought, by a thinking, by an intelligence. Whether that intelligence is up to the mark or not is another question. But there was some intelligence involved prior to the production of that draft or sign, whatever you have produced. So human beings are distinguished by the intelligent activity. Their intelligence defines them. Sapiens, the Latin word means knowledge, buddhi. In our own languages, Pali or Sanskrit or Hindi or even in Assamese, I think buddhi is buddhi only. Intelligence, wisdom, knowledge. So buddhi precedes everything. So we have become from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, that is Buddhiman, and thereby our activities are basically an act of intelligence. And if we are an intelligent being, then our relationship with the entire nature and with our fellow human beings or other animals and plants, that becomes a central point for us, how to negotiate our relationship with these things. What kind of relationship we should have? Because ultimately living is nothing but how to associate and how to structure our relationship and what should be the nature and level of the relationship with the other beings. If that is the main point, then you come to the question of silviculture, why we need forest, why we need to go for plantation and things like that. I was telling my officers that it has become a kind of photoshopping. You go and plant and forget. After that you don't care for it. But it should not be the case. Therefore, I came up with that triple gem: plant, nurture and harvest. And this is called a sustainable food cycle or a sustainable eco cycle or whatever you can say. Now, having said this, if we don't care for the forest, level of, what is the desirable level of forest percentage in this country? Like 17.5% is the forest coverage now. That is not sufficient. We need 32 or 33% of the forest coverage. So that means progress has happened, and by harvesting, by altering the natural resources, we have grown up. We need good houses, we need colleges, we need football auditoriums, we need cricket stadiums, things like that. We need hospitals, we need everything. So we cannot say keep it and perish. No. Romanticism, environmental romanticism, that we should go back to our villages, our own ancestors, जो उन लोग कितना अच्छा लाइफ जिया हम मालूम है, they were eating the millets, they were wearing small minimum kapda, all that. No, man has to progress, the buddhi has to evolve, it has to become, it basic nature of buddhi is that it is revolutionizing every time. It is all the time outdating itself and thereby growing. So no harm in we have to progress from the state of Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, and Homo sapiens too. You may have to think of how to perfect the entire capacity of us. Because Einstein, who is supposed to be a great brain, his brain was analyzed, and they say that he has not even used 5% of the original capacity that he has been endowed with. If he himself was considered to be a greatest brain in the 21st century, and he has only utilized less than 5% of his brain, the Homo sapiens, the grey matter's power, you should know. Therefore, we have to go for the unlimited possibility of exploring ourselves and establishing ourselves in any field that we like. Now, as students, you are in the educational field. Now you are in the university. University molds you and prepares you for the industry, for research, or to become a leader in the coming days, or you may be an administrator or whatever. So what is your responsibility? Before knowing your responsibility, what is your power? And what kind of thoughts you are having about this country, about your university, about your city, about your community, all that. So that matters whether you will be having a kind of orientation towards your life or not. We are all basically meaning making machines. इसका मतलब क्या है? Everything we ask, what is the meaning of it? If somebody smiles at you, you want to know the meaning. If somebody is turning his face or her face, you want to know the meaning. If somebody closes the eyes, we want to know the meaning. Everything we want to know the meaning, or otherwise we want to create meanings and assign it, whether it is valid or not. You can have some water. So, it may be an example of civic sense, and that is really a civic sense. I have come to the main point. So, how do we relate to each other? How we behave with each other? What kind of sentiments we are cultivating? What kind of, this is the civic sense, we have to take it as the applications. And the behavior is what it is, being based on the app. So it is the software, and how you behave is based on the software. Civic sense is the attitude, the sentiment, the mentality, the structures of feelings, the kind of ideas, the nature of prejudice that you have in your mind. South Indian means you immediately draw a picture. A person from Rajasthan means you draw immediately a picture in your mind. If a person is from South Sahara region, you have an idea. If somebody is from China, you have an idea. So all these ideas which you have to examine them, because they determined so far your unreflective disposition towards the others. How I behave, how I respond to a situation, how I take up a given condition, all that is basically already what is given by your parents, what is given by your colleagues, what is given by your university, what is given by your neighbors and community like that. So this civic sense that we carry in our mind is nothing but the application. So many apps are there in our mind. So these apps are, as in the cell phone technology, man-made. These civic sensibilities are also man-made. This is my brought up, what I can do. This is what I am being told to do. This is how I think now to do. See, these are all the terminologies that we use now. All that is nothing but it is a generated one by us. if we have created the sentiments, if we have created the attitudes, if we have developed the ideas as to how to behave to a particular situation, then an inference has to be drawn. What is that to be drawn from this? What has been made can be unmade, can be remade, can be remade, or it can be thrown out and new things can be made. Isn't it? The sentiments which are given to you are not permanent in themselves. They themselves were not put there. They are not existing per se. They have no a priori existence. आपका पहले वो नहीं था, ऐसा नहीं है, सनातन नहीं है वो. They are not existing on their own. They are given to you. And who has given? And under what conditions it has been given to you, whether it is relevant to you or not, at that time you get prabodhitvam, you get self-enlightened. And with that self-enlightenment, you take a critical approach to very many things given to you, and you decide this is acceptable to me and that is not acceptable to me. You get it? So this way we get the ideas how to handle our life. And if that is the case, then as a student, you have now time to re-look into the sentiments that are given to you. Because sentiments are sediments of power. They are not ordinary, they are settled equations of power. My brother, he is a male, so he will get more property. So I should not object to it. My mummy ne bola hai. You see the sentiment how it operates? It is a settled equation of power. I define it as settled equation of power, and it is a sediment of power. If that is the case, then you have to relocate, and thereby alone we can create a new society. As students, you have the opportunity to rethink. Your main purpose is to be a thinking being. Now in the beginning itself, if you can think things properly, get yourself trained like one who goes for swimming and learns the swimming, and next time when he goes for a holiday in, he will jump into the swimming pool and he will start enjoying the swimming. Like that, when you are now here, please re-examine and see how the civic sense can be developed in us. Why this topic I have taken? If you see, in India intolerance is so much, stereotypification is so much, judgments are so much, prejudice is so much. So everywhere we come across intolerance, a kind of straightforward judgments, straight jacketing of black and white. No, there is 50 shades of grey. Not only in the matters of whatever a book. In everything there are so many, not 50 shades, n number of shades are there in every aspect. So you have to focus on that and understand how these things can be altered. Why these things have to be altered. That way, a student will become, you are basically a student, that is how they see. If I go in a train and the train ticket checking person will ask me, then he will see me as a passenger, no? He will not see me as a commissioner. He will ask for, aapke paas ticket hai kya? But I now see you not as a student. All of you are 18 plus, therefore you are an adult. As an adult, you are called upon to vote and also to decide upon the future of the country. As a citizen, you are all now, just think that you are now citizens because you are 18 plus. So as a citizen, not what about the infant? He is also citizen, but the legal definition is when you are 18 plus and have the franchisee, that is the right to vote, you are an adult as per the constitution. So if you are an adult, you are a citizen, and as a citizen, you have the responsibility to be civic in your behavior, civic in your attitude. And one such a civic can be going for afforestation, things like that. That is one thing. But main purpose is not that alone, not limited to the environment. We are not animals to don't have the memory of the history. And we are not machines, not the iPhones, things like that, which doesn't know the history. It is incapable of thinking on its own. A highly evolved machine called Apple phone and a highly evolved animal दोनों के बीच में क्या different? What is the same commonality? An animal cannot have a memory of what happened to it, and a machine cannot think on its own. But human beings are not like that. We are capable of domesticating the animals, taming the animals, and at the same time we are also capable of making the machines. So your critical capacities you should evolve. And here, how to understand the civic sense? Take the example of the George Floyd. He was brutally killed by the US police, that is particularly racist police. So what happened at that time? Moral outrage was there. Across the countries, across the globe, people are having outrage, moral outrage. कैसा हो सकता है? How it can happen? This is the example of civic sense. It is the effect of conscience. You should be conscient. You should be conscientious as to your fellow beings. The fraternity feeling has to come in you. If you read the Constitution's preamble, it says fraternity. Apart from liberty, equality and justice, it talks of fraternity. Why you have to be, whether you are an aeronautics engineer or you are a oceanographist, all that doesn't matter to us. You are a citizen, you are a living being, you are an adult. Therefore, your behavior, your thoughts, your plan for the future has to be oriented towards the civic sensibility, and that civic sensibility is the fellow feeling. How I will behave with the other. All your morality, standards of behavior, code of conduct, they have no applicability in the absence of the other person. If I am alone in my bathroom, what I am, nobody bothers. But if I am coming out, how I should be, it matters to me and also matters to the others. One time, a guy went to Lord Buddha and asked him, you said that you have renounced everything, you left your palace, you left your wife, you left your children, everything. Then why are you still wearing these 2 pieces of clothes? Very good question, right? Then Lord Buddha answered him, I am perfectly okay, I will be comfortable without clothes. Are you comfortable? Oh yeah. So morality or civic sense is taking priority, giving importance, giving due respect and regard to the other person. How you regard the other, how you value the life of others. At the same time, as I was telling you, if that sentiments, that valuing, respecting is not to your own welfare, if it goes against your minimum guaranteed fundamental rights, minimum guaranteed moral rights, then you need not value it. If somebody comes and says, for my sake you jump from the building, stop, will you do it? No. So a minimum kind of self-territory should be there. Self-right should be there. Self-sovereignty should be there. Then alone you will be able to judge others. When you have to adjust and when you have to adjust with others, that will happen only you have this criteria. So, the civic sense which I wanted to say is that a fraternity feeling. Fraternity is nothing but how you regard the dignity and respect of the others and how you ensure that you are not being degraded or insulted. If that is done, if the crux of the code of conduct for us to be in the society as a member, then your responsibility is now clear. As a student, as an adult, as a citizen, you have to come to the portals of life. You have to come to the government, because in the government decisions are made which have greater impact on you. I tell you, as a tax officer, in Britain, a window tax was levied. Suppose you have 2-3 windows, the windows dimensions will be measured and they will be charging you a particular amount of tax. So what happened? After some time, people started having so much diseases. Why? There is no sunlight, because they started reducing the window size to the top of this matchbox. Slowly, and finally, they all stopped, having windows, so that they need not pay taxes. See, to evade taxes, you can go to the extent of not having a fresh air and sunlight. Finally, people started having a lot of skin diseases. Then the government has abolished the windows tax. You see, the impact that a government policy can have on the welfare and the happiness of the people are very, very huge. Therefore, to safeguard interest of you, you have to represent yourself in the government. So I don't know, many of you are from Assam, Nagaland, Manipur, Tripura and all that. How many of your colleagues, your relatives have come and joined the government? Please think. And if there is no government servant from your community, please, you think of entering into the government as an important decision maker, as a power sharer, as a partner. That way only the countries, the power structure can be structured with checks and balances, as my colleague Mr. Kayo was telling yesterday. The checks and balances are important in life, and it is how far we have to make the defenses. Good fences make good friends, no? So how far we have to make that demarking line of relationship, that is possible only when you have the sense of checks and balances, and therefore we have to come to the government as an important participant. That is one responsibility of yours. Secondly, you have to also take up the social responsibility in and around you. For instance, you need not be a Shakespeare to teach ABCD to a child. There are many slums here, many children who don't have any access to education, English medium. Why don't you take up an initiative? That would be one of the an expression of your civic responsibilities. And you can adopt a village, go and plant some trees. That would be an activity. So it is not that you have to get depersonalized in the WhatsApp era. We find people are getting depersonalized, desocialized, and demoralized to a greater extent by these means of communication. But these means of communication have to be used by you for re-socializing, re-personalizing, and bringing about a re-moralized sphere of activity for all of us. We should be able to immediately respond to a wrong thing that is happening anywhere. If something happened yesterday in Nagaland, it should disturb you. You cannot say it is not relating to me. Then how we can be called as a nation? In the family, if one person is not well, you are feeling very unhappy and disturbed, you are feeling both rote ho. But if somebody of the country who is in the north, in any of the corner of the country, in any part of the country, if he is or they are affected, you are keeping quiet. So your capacity to love, your capacity to sympathize, your capacity to feel for the fellow beings are limited. It is limited by your linguistic barriers, it is limited by your community barriers, it is limited by your regional barriers, it is limited by your biases. Then what is the so-called great thing that you call yourself as a nation or a person with a civic sense or civilized people? Therefore, the purpose is that you have to expand your capacity to sympathize with, your capacity to analyze and understand and put yourself in the shoes of the others. That is very important. That is called a civic sense. That is your responsibility. The student power has brought in many governments and brought down many governments as a voting being. Your intellectual capacity is that much. So you have to take these ideas into mind and see that sentiments are cultivated, they are cultivable, and our capacity to love and sympathize people across the barriers are possible, and we should move towards that. And one such step is that you should think of yourself and then plan it out. That way the constitutional ideals can be realized. Justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. These are the four pillars on which the constitution is made. And everybody is having a chair here. If somebody is not having a chair, will you feel happy? Everybody got the chair? No. So I don't have a chair. Let me feel happy. No. If everybody gets the lunch packet and you don't get, 90% of the people got lunch packet, I alone did not get. Is it okay? Not okay. When it hurts you, when it harms you, you feel a moral outrage. But the same moral outrage doesn't flow out Like charity begins at the tip of the nose and ends at the nose itself. This is what most of the time our attitude in this country. We have this kind of attitude. This we have to change. This attitude can be changed. And that is where a moral awakening is required. An intellectual awakening is required. An intellectual regeneration is required. And whom I can appeal to? Except to the students who are capable of thinking and making an organic change in this country. With these words, I would like to thank the administration and everyone for passionately hearing me. Thank you.